In this video, I am going to answer probably the question that I get asked the most. What operating system has the best accessibility for the blind? Windows, Mac OS, Android, iOS, Linux, Chrome OS. Which one is the best when it comes to accessibility for the blind? I'm going to answer that question, and stay tuned to the end because I'm also going to bust a popular myth floating around the blind community. Hey guys, it's Sam with The Blind Life. Welcome back to the channel where I help you learn how to live your best blind life. Now first, I guess we need to establish what that even means, accessibility. What are we talking about when we're talking about accessibility for the blind? Well, for me, you can distill it down to the three pillars of accessibility: visual enhancements, auditory enhancements, and tactile enhancements. All the different accessibility features that we use can be boiled down into those three pillars. Next, we need to kind of clarify what is an operating system. And in this situation, I am talking about both computers and mobile devices. First, the desktop computer systems that we have today would be Windows-based computers, Apple or Mac-based computers, Google Chrome-based computers like Chromebooks, and Linux-based computers. Now, to make this even easier and further simplify things, I'm going to go ahead and cut out Chrome and Linux. It is generally accepted that Chrome OS is terrible when it comes to accessibility. Yes, it has accessibility, but it's not the best. And Linux is kind of the same. Both Chrome and Linux are not easy to use when it comes to accessibility. If you are a nerdy kind of person and you love figuring things out, then you're going to be fine with Chrome OS and Linux when it comes to accessibility. But if you're just the average user, stay away from them. Just stay away. We're going to stick with Windows and Mac, okay? Then for mobile operating systems, you have Android and iOS. Yes, we have Android tablets, we have iPads, but they're essentially the same as Android phones and iPhones, so we're just going to kind of lump those together. So Android and iOS for mobile operating systems. The ones that we have left, let's go ahead and apply the three pillars of accessibility to them and find out who comes out on top. This is going to be a very quick, and you'll see why here in a second. So the first one, visual enhancements. All four systems, Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, they all have pretty much the same visual enhancements. Screen magnifiers, high contrast mode, light mode, dark mode, color filters, inversion mode, the ability to adjust the size of your text. If there is a mouse pointer, the ability to adjust the size and the color of the mouse pointer. What else is there? The ability to adjust transparencies of on-screen effects. They're all on very similar playing fields. And I know some people are not going to like that, but don't worry, we'll come back to this. All right, auditory enhancements. All the operating systems have some type of screen reader. They have some type of way to adjust the different sound effects of the operating system. They all have text to speech. They all have speech to text. They all have, well, if they make phone calls, they all have voice calling. They all have voice dialing. They all have the ability to give voice commands to operate or to complete functions in the system. So once again, all very similar. Tactile enhancements. Now this one's a little tricky because you could argue that a smartphone isn't the most tactile, but they do have like haptic feedback. All these devices, at least the smartphones, all have haptic feedback. When it comes to the computers, it's also a little tricky because it's customizable as far as tactile enhancements go. For example, my keyboard here, I like this keyboard because it feels a certain way that works really well for me when doing my touch typing. But this didn't come with my computer. I bought it as an accessory. The point is that when it comes to tactile enhancements as far as computers are concerned, if you need it, you can get it. So what does this mean? Okay, we've applied all three pillars of accessibility to all of these systems, and they're all pretty similar. What does it mean? Which operating system is hands down the best operating system when it comes to accessibility for the blind? Spoiler, There is no operating system that is the best for accessibility. What I always say is, what do you have? So what do I tell people when they ask me what is my recommendation for the best, most accessible operating system? First of all, I say there is most accessible. They're all very similar these days. The playing fields are pretty even these days. Some do some things better than others, okay? And that's what I was referring to earlier. In my opinion, some operating systems do some things better than others. But the bottom line is you will be successful with whatever operating system you choose. It just, like anything, is just going to take some time. Time on the instrument, right? That's what they say about musicians. The same is true about assistive technology. The longer you use it, the more practice you get, the better you get, the more comfortable you get. Now, you might be saying, well, Sam, what do you know about this? What makes you an expert on this topic? Well, the fact that this is my Android. Here's my iPhone. This is my Windows computer right there. Here's my Mac. I have an iPad. I have a Samsung tablet. I have an Apple Android watch. I'm an authority on all of this because I use all of this on a daily basis. I'm an assistive technology trainer. I am proficient on all of these systems. And more importantly, I am not loyal to any one system. So I can speak objectively about all of the systems and point out the pros and the cons of all of the systems. And in my experience, no one system is better than the other when it comes to accessibility. The most important thing I tell people is to look outside of the accessibility, look outside of the system. There are other things to consider that might be more important. Number one, what ecosystem are you currently using? You know, some people, well, I'm an iPhone user, I've got an iPad, I want to get a computer. Well, then I recommend a Mac, you know, because they're all going to play well together. You're already embedded in the Apple ecosystem, you might as well get a Mac. Someone says, Android and I am using Microsoft 365. Well, then let's take a look at Windows, all right? You know, it's not a deal breaker. You could definitely get a Mac, but all of your other peripherals might play better with a Windows computer. What do you need it for? Are you just going to be looking up emails, searching the internet? Well, there's no reason to spend, you know, $2,500 on a Mac when you can get a $400 Windows laptop and it'll get the job done perfectly well. And speaking of that, that's one of the main things I talk about is budget. Budget should be your primary concern. You know, someone's like, I would love a Mac, but I don't have $3,000 to spend on a computer. Well, we can take a third of that and get a really good Windows PC. So bottom line, answer to the question, there is no perfect system when it comes to accessibility. All right, now to debunk, to bust the myth, the prolific myth, which I don't understand why this is so in the blind and visually impaired community, but the myth that, number one, Apple has the best accessibility, which we just debunked that already, but that they were the first to have accessibility. I often hear people say, you know, well, Apple, they really care about the blind community because they were the first to do accessibility and put it out into the forefront and really take it seriously. And it's just not true. Now, I want to reiterate, I am not a fanboy of any one system. Like I said, I love my iPhone. I use it all the time. I'm okay with Mac. I prefer PC, but I'm okay with Mac. I am just not a fan of people making blanket untrue statements, stating something as fact when it clearly is not. Apple first brought VoiceOver to their Mac in Mac OS X, which was 2007. And then the zoom magnifier didn't come to a Mac until 2009. First got released on a Windows computer way back in 1994. I believe that same year Windows started to integrate their own screen reader. But then the next year, they put out a special test version of the Windows magnifier, and then 3 years later in Windows 98, they included it as a standard feature. Now, the mobile operating system's a little different. Apple did come out with accessibility before Android for the most part, but it also was released before Android, so it only makes sense. So I'm not bashing on Apple or anything like that. In fact, I'm not even talking about, what they've done with accessibility since then. That's a whole different conversation. I am simply trying to put to bed this blanket statement that Apple has always been better because they were first at accessibility. It's just not true. All right, and now that most of you are probably very angry with me, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Please know that my whole goal someone is to truly find the accessibility that works the best for them. If that is Apple, fantastic. If that is Microsoft, fantastic. I truly just want to find what's best for you. Hopefully this helps, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. If you absolutely didn't hate it and you did like it, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, helps out the channel. And make sure you're subscribed to The Blind Life. I put out content like this every single Saturday. Thanks again for watching. Sam with The Blind Life. I will see you next week.